You're listening to Eat, Play, Sex with Dr. Cat, the place to uplevel that sexy life of yours, with expert talk on sex, love, and nutrition. So when we're talking about power dynamics and we're talking about having this energetic pull between you to the polarity, being able to drop into both of these alternating, opposing roles, would you say that there's any particular qualities that you would need to have to make this really successful, or things like, do you need to have chemistry? Do you need to be attracted to the person? That kind of thing?
Yeah, I think the qualities that feel important to me as a dominant is wanting to create an experience that my partner is going to enjoy. So that doesn't necessarily for me need to include physical attraction, but I think there is an energetic component that is important to me. So if we're going back to the example of like a foot rub, I may not necessarily need to be super attracted to that person to enjoy that foot rub. And you can create kind of that, like, let me see where I want to go with it. Yeah, like the energy around the activity can be such that it can be really exciting and fun and playful, and you can build that chemistry from that.
Oh, wow. That's so good. So it's not that you're self-sacrificing your pleasure for the sake of somebody else. You're creating and sourcing your own pleasure in the experience.
Oh yeah. I think it turns into a fun feedback loop. So like if someone's, I'm going to keep using the foot massage. We can go into here. We'll go into hair brushing. I love hair brushing. If someone's brushing my hair, I'm getting the pleasure of the sensation and feeling cared for. And then they get to see, oh, she's really enjoying herself. I love that she's enjoying herself. And that feeds their excitement, their eroticism. And then I see them enjoying themselves, and that will feed into me. So you get this wonderful feedback loop of pleasure and enjoyment.
I love that. And I think that's really important for really anybody to understand when it comes to the concept of chemistry. Like how many students and clients I've had who are in the process of dating and they're like, well, I'm not attracted to the person. I can't, I'm attracted to that one who I have a trauma bond with, but I'm not attracted to anybody else unless that. And I say, well, that person was the muse and the inspiration for you to connect with your erotic energy, but that they're not the source of it. Like you're the source of it, and you can bring that out and cultivate it in other places and with other people, but it wasn't that person that sourced it for you, just inspired. And so here I'm hearing something similar as you're saying that, of you create that pleasure in the experience.
Yeah, definitely. I think before going into any type of play or scene, asking yourself, like, what do I want from this? What would be most pleasurable and fun of an experience? Because then where to go, what's going to be fun for you. I mean, how many times do you get into an experience and you're like, oh, even if you're going to a restaurant, what kind of food do you want? Or focusing on someone else's pleasure instead of asking yourself, okay, do I actually want the Thai food or do I want the Mexican food tonight?
Yeah. So again, it's leading with your pleasure, but not in the expense of the others or the other person, or the expense of your pleasure. It's still present there.
Yeah. I think ideally it should be a mix of both.
Agreed. And I always think about, these concepts of being a dominant, because you're empowering, you're helping to facilitate somebody else's fantasies, like really bring out or let them live out whatever it is that they enjoy. But how important it is for you to also know what your no is and your boundaries is, just as much as it is for them.
Oh my gosh, so important. Right. Because if you're not having a good time as the dominant, they're not having the good time as the submissive and following you.
Yeah. And if people are interested in
in doing this, like I can imagine it takes a level of confidence and empowerment to be able to direct and say and speak these things that you're talking about. Were you confident and empowered sexually when you first started being a dominant, or did that come with the practice and the doing?
Yeah, I think it definitely for me came from the practice and the doing. I can think of,
Really?
yeah, I had a partner kind of early on when I was discovering my dominance who asked me to tie him to the bed. And I was
Mhm.
like, okay, I can do that. I have the technical skills to facilitate it. And once I tied his wrist and tied him to the bed, he dropped in so deeply and I wasn't expecting it. Like he just completely surrendered and released into my control. And at the time, I didn't feel necessarily super in control or powerful, and it freaked me out.
What
I
did
was
you
like,
do?
oh my gosh. So I saw that he got into that really deep surrendered space, and I was like, oh. And I went and I started untying him, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't expect you to go there so quickly. Like I didn't feel like
Yeah.
I had um, fully realized how important it is to hold that power. And so I wound up taking him out and we talked about it afterwards. And there was plenty more play later and it was all
Yeah.
wonderful. But in that moment, I was like, oh, wow, this is like a real gift and a real power to be able to be in control of someone else's experience.
Wow. And for you who's consciously connected to the experience, and you're very intelligent to be able to discern that. For many people who are just trying this out or just practicing for the first time, I can imagine that would be really, yeah, really scary, and like not know how to what to do with that, or what to do with holding a scene like that.
Yeah. A tip that I like to give for people who are just starting to dip their toe into sensation play or power is using a blindfold for your partner.
Hmm.
So it can be so nice to just not have eyes on you. So you can feel free to, roam around the bedroom. Oh, shoot, that toy is on the other side of the room. I need to go grab it. Or, oh, I'm stumbling in my heels. They won't even notice, right? They're just there, happy to hear you whispering into their ear and tickling them. And
Uh-huh. And it holds the energy.
it does. It
Okay.
does.
Because I'm
Yeah.
afraid like they're gonna hear me stumbling in my heels. So I'm gonna be like, oh, we're back in the living room. You know?
See, but that can actually be, so you can bring in kind of that element of mind play too. So you may think, oh, shoot, I just stumbled and like they're going to hear and they're back in the living room, where they may be in their head being like, oh, is she grabbing that one toy? Maybe she's grabbing that. Like they don't know, right?
Yeah.
So they don't know that you've made a mistake until you tell them. So it's all part of your scene. Like, oh, yeah,
Wow.
I'm stumbling in my heels, but actually I'm walking towards you with power. They have no idea.
Or even make the sound into something that's kinky, or something that like you saying your words to re-guide that. Because I can imagine if one partner really wants to do this, but then the other partner's like, oh, I'm doing this for you. And they're like laughing when you're trying to do a role play. Like, how would you suggest asking for a friend, but how would you suggest that
Yeah.
they navigate that, work with that?
Yeah, role play can definitely be a challenging one because you're assuming not only completely different roles, but potentially different. I don't know, like you may not be a teacher in real life, but want to play a teacher, and that might feel awkward. I think that for role play, having a sense of humor can actually be really helpful. So if you do break dynamic for a minute and just like laughing about it and being like, yep, that was funny, and then jumping back in, like it doesn't mean that your scene is over just because, there may have been a little hiccup.
Uh-huh.
Um, Chances are, if you're doing some type of fantasy or role play, like your person's okay with a little bit of stumble. They're figuring it out too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lovers, thank you again for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, hit subscribe and head over to eatplaysex.com to connect with me and grab my sexy guides. Because my goal here is to get you to eat, play, and sex better so you can improve your sex life, which will improve every aspect of your life. Until next time, keep it sexy.